Jump right in. We are now joined by somebody we love that we talked about a lot on the show, Mr. Jai Jamison. Jay, thank you so much for coming on and discussing the penultimate episode of the series.
For sure. Happy to be here. Happy to join y'all.
I have to say, I have to know what was going through your mind when you found out that you would be helming the next to last episode as things begin to wind down.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a shock. When at the beginning of the season, I was talking to Todd and Brent. I had like a scheduling thing in the sense of like I was writing a movie, but they were like, "Hey, we want you to come back." I was like, "I want to come back as well in whatever capacity I can." And so they said, "All right, we'll give you like an episode to write and an episode to direct." And they could be the same one if you want, just depending on like timing. And so then I just kind of was like, well, I would love to write and direct an episode. So let's just say that, like, I'll just go there. And then initially it was supposed to be a little bit earlier in the season because I like freed up, I could have done anywhere from like midpoint onward. And, it was supposed to be earlier. That's what we talked about. They were like, "Oh yeah, I think you'll be doing generally this," and then like the notice came through from like my reps, and it was like 409. I was like, "Oh, penultimate, great!" Like
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure whatsoever. I was like, and like it's talking about me. It's like that's usually when like all the stuff goes down, right? I was like, yeah, it is. But it was that thing where as soon as I knew what the task was, I was like, all right, let's get into it. And like this whole process is such a team effort. It's like I wrote and directed it, but we broke it in the room together.
Right.
And then now obviously the cast and crew up there is just the best. So it was I felt very supported throughout the whole process, but it was definitely daunting for sure. That's the word, is daunting.
Yeah, and getting to break it in the writer's room, I'm sure helped tremendously instead of you just sitting at the computer by yourself going, what am I going to do to tie everything up? And you had so many hanging threads that needed to be tied up here before going into the 10th and final hour. So yes. when you are breaking that with everybody else, with Todd and Brent in the room, what are you looking at as far as how do we tie up, Lex's relationship and everything that's been going on with the boys? Kind of what was your driving force there?
Yeah, it was that. What I knew was, like we knew Act 6 was going to be like part one.
Yeah.
Part one of like the final battle, right? Like it was part which would lead into episode 10, then to the finale. So that was like kind of done with. And then we had all of the the storylines coming through 7 and 8. It was funny because like I didn't start reading the scripts until like right before I was getting them, but I was like, so I didn't start reading the scripts until right before I was about to hop in the room, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And as I would like, it was an interesting process. It's the first time being on this show where I wasn't in the room, from the beginning. So I'm reading along, and I kind of knew some things that were going to happen that we had talked about at the beginning of the season, but then to see them being executed, to seeing how the stories were unfolding, it was like being a fan. It was like watching. It was a different way of watching the show. I'm a fan of the show as well, even though I've worked on it from the beginning. It's like a show I would still watch if I didn't work on it. So there was that aspect, and it was, as we were kind of going through, and I kind of got into those first few days and we're like, all right, we always do a what do we know and what do we owe? Then when we're starting to break a new episode, it's like, what are the things that have come out of the last few episodes that are like the the plot lines, the storylines that we've got to dig into, and then what do we owe? What are the things that we have to pay off or set up for the end? And yeah, I mean, we just like I knew coming into it, and also I came in with things as like there are things I want to do, in this final thing, So I think it was kind of set up coming off of 8, that there would be a big Lois investigative, journey. Like that was like one of the things I was like, all right, coming off of 8, it's like she kind of she lost her mojo a little bit. She kind of got, played by Luther in the court of public opinion. So it's like what is Lois's drive? How is she going to like push us into the end? And that's going to be like an investigation and digging around Luther's weaknesses and trying to expose those, like trying to expose the cracks in his armor, so to speak. Um we I knew that we were going to delve into the boys and their I had to do it.
Boys.
Thank you. Um and setting them up for like how are they going to contribute to the final battle? Like what is the culmination of their training story for this, and like, setting up where they're at in terms of their power level, knowing that they're going to have to go up against this, thing that beat their dad before. And that they're not at the same level as their dad. But it was always a place of coming it was always coming at it from a place of like, what can they do? Like not focusing on what their deficiencies are, but what are the things that they're able to do that maybe like Clark can't. It's like that's the way, that was the way we were approaching that. So yeah, it was just like it was that thing to your it was just threading all of these lines. And again, having, like Christy was great and like in the room in terms of just helping get me up to speed, very fast. And then like, just basically everyone in the room was just, it was it was like seeing old friends because it'd been like a while since I'd
Yeah.
been back in the room, So it's just like getting everyone together. It's like, oh man, I miss this. I wish we could have been in here longer, but
I know. It all went by so fast.
it did so fast.
Yeah. One thing you and you've always done in your episodes, but specifically, I hate to say you had a thankless job because we thank you for it, but you did such a good job of balancing basically the impending doom of knowing what's coming, no pun intended, but also something that these actors have done so well since the pilot, and that is blend their humor. And you did a fantastic job of adding in some lighter moments that softened the blow for me, at least toward the end of the episode. But specifically, I mean, if you want to give it up to props to the props department or production, but the curly fry box.
Let me tell you,
Chef
my
kiss.
favorite prop on, like, I think there like we had our prop master Slade is incredible. Just like if you look at all of the things that we've made over, the course of this season, um, there's just like you walk in. It's my favorite. One of my favorite things to do is to walk through the art department
Yeah.
when they're because you think of these things and then you go, and someone's made it.
Yeah.
It's like they've made the thing, and so we had this idea for the like, oh, they're famous. We're definitely going to play into them having like something special in the menu. And I forgot who pitched the curly fries, but like I just was like, it's gotta be. I'd gone to eat somewhere. So I was like, it's gotta be in like the little thing, and we put his face on it. They just executed to perfection. And like everyone, the first time anyone saw it, everyone cracked up. And during the rehearsals, there's a take. I think we may have used it, but like we didn't show Alex the thing. Like, like the first take we did.
Oh,
We kept it secret, so we just had the mime setting down during rehearsal, whatever. And then the first take, we had her actually set down the thing, and his reaction was so brilliant because he was trying to. It was perfect. He was trying to stay in character, but like was this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Um, so great. I loved it. No, I mean, it was very important to me that we lean into as much joy as possible
yes.
in this episode. I've fought for it like every step of the way. And I don't mean just like not in the sense that I'm like going up against forces, but just like
Right.
knowing what was coming. It was like every opportunity that it made sense to have a little moment, I would try to incorporate a little moment or lean in that direction because, I just knew what Act 6 was going to be, and I knew what, the finale was going to be leading into, and so I was very conscious of like trying to carve those moments out as much as possible. Like another moment, like Clark training with the boys.
The looking at the watch, like every bit of
Oh,
that was fantastic.
it was. I mean, it's one of my favorite moments and it was like something that it's one of those things where it's like it was on the cutting room like floor, like just in from the production standpoint, just because it was like we had so much to do for Act 6. There was so much going and we got to like basically blow up Main Street,
Yeah.
and which was very fun to film. Um, but it was just that thing where it's like, oh, like we weren't sure if we would have the resources to do that moment,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, and I worked with our visual effects folks, our stunt folks, like our AD for scheduling, and we were like, we're going to try to get this because it's the last kind of moment of just like fun and joy before
And literally up to the last minute before.
Yeah.
yeah. So it was like, and it was those things where it's just like when we're talking about like how to train the boys, it's like uh what do we do differently? It's like this kind of cold hologram versus like they're able to do the thing that Clark didn't have access to
Yeah.
because they have Clark and they have each other. So it's like super powered roughhousing is like what I would, it's like wrestling with your dad. It's like for me, it was like playing basketball with my dad, back in the day when I was like, I was in high school and like we go on like in Saturday morning runs. It was like me and my dad, like, so that was the impetus behind that. It was like so much fun. The first cut I saw when it was like we just tossed Jordan into like the next county, I was like, yes.
So good. And I also love that it was something that didn't have to happen at the farm now, since everybody kind of knows. It was like, all right, we'll go to the fairgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't matter.
And you got a shirt rip out of it.
Listen,
Yes.
I was like, I need the shirt rip. I need the shirt rip. Where is the I need it. It was definitely like me checking off all the things that I got want to get in my episode. But it was just like shirt rip check.
Is there anything that didn't make the bucket list then?
It's a broader. There are like two pitches that I didn't get just off of like the shortened nature. I mean, this is a kind of more broader things or whatever. I'll just say I really wanted a kinetic bow staff for Nat to go kinetic for Hammer. I had like a whole like designs and everything for it, and like just didn't, just ran out of time and budget for her to develop that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to say that, run out of time and budget, but see how well the budget has been utilized this season. It's something we've talked about a whole lot, that it's been phenomenal that nothing has missed a step in these final episodes and hours of the series. juxtaposed with your humor, though, you had some of the most pivotal scenes of the season in this episode as well. Dare I say, the greatest live action Superman Lex Luthor scene on camera? I mean, I that that feels sacrilegious to say. There's no Superman I don't love, and there's no Lex Luthor I don't love, and there's no Superman I don't love. But good Lord, how did you feel watching the two of them play that out?
Let me tell you, you saying that it definitely gave me goosebumps a little bit. It was talking about things on the checklist, that was definitely one of them. Like a Superman Lex Luthor showdown in the penthouse, final form Superman, final form Lex, having that square off. And Tyler and Cutlets they just brought it. It was amazing to watch them work. It was once I saw the penthouse set, I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And the first setup and just them standing and profile, it was a comic book panel. Yeah. It was you could have, I was just sitting at the monitors, kicking my feet, just so excited, so happy. Just that was me throughout so much of this episode, was just 15-year-old me running around playing with action figures.
Oh, you would have never gotten me off the Fortress set.
Oh, man.
That.
Yeah. Or Brainiac's lair.
Yeah.
Was that was when I walked in, and because I had kind of come up with this design of the monitors being extensions of his head, so that it becomes that's the comic book thing, and the wires and stuff. So I described it and kind of sent some references to our set deck and props department and art department. And when I, kind of went on set and I saw the final layout, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It's this is so cool. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's one of the best jobs I've ever had, and maybe will ever have. It was amazing.
One other thing I was going to say, touch on the Fortress, that's also a fantastic scene between Clark and his mother that kind of put a nice little bow on, since bringing her into the fold last season, that I really appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, it was, again, going into those different mindsets of him realizing, or her helping him realize, that the boys will not be him.
Boys.
And yeah.
Drink.
Yes. Will not be him. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
And for me, it's the 1-2 punch of that realization, but then he goes back to Lois and has that conversation where she's like, okay, cool, what are you gonna do about it? See what they can do, and for me, that was important, just to highlight and showcase the importance of all of the women in Clark's life, and these strong women in Clark's life, his mother, both mothers. Unfortunately, Martha wasn't as big a role in our version of the series, but her presence loomed large.
Absolutely.
That was a fun scene to do. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I want to jump in here, Jay. I have to ask you, is there any way that Bitsy could possibly film for the DVD set, just that masterclass, even if it's just chapter 7? I want to see Lois's masterclass.
I would attend.
Yes.
I definitely would love to do that. That's something that, the masterclass was a running joke since season 1. That was another thing I was happy to bring back, the reference to the masterclass. Yeah, no, I would love to do that. We might have to get with Bitsy and at least put a little bit of it you know.
Please. Even if it's just like a reel, yeah,
Yeah.
TikTok or something.
We'll bankroll it. We'll cover
Please.
yeah.
Yeah. The other one, I'm very interested in Superman lore, but I'm also, just talking about the show week after week, I'm interested in Superman and Lois lore. So, getting back to the curly fries, um, I was really excited to see that there was actually a Vicky May, and I'm just wondering,
Oh yeah.
what, like, is she based on somebody? Is even the diner's name based on somebody?
I'm not sure if because like if it's not based on something from the like some like pull that like Adam or Max has given us from the comics, like deep comics lore,
Mhm.
then it's usually based on like something from like someone from Todd or Brent's life or growing up. So I don't know if there's like if there's a Victoria May in from Wisconsin or not. But the lore of our Vicky May is actually like Vicky May. I don't know if Vicky May Jr. or Vicky May this. So she is like her mother founded his name after her mother, and she's kind of taken it over. That's at least our lore for that character, who might be a little young to have had that diner for so long.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, you got to last season, was it Complications where I think that's when we lost Pia, and obviously there's the whole Lois storyline, and then here you get to sort of come back around to that with Bruno at the prison. I'm curious how, I mean, that's like was that kind of a full circle and sort of getting to put a a period on the end of that storyline that you got to work on last year?
For sure. Yeah. Well, one, working with Chad is just incredible. Like, he's just one of the best actors I've ever worked with. And like kind of plugging him into this world is so much fun. And, when we were breaking the story and we knew that there was going to be like a Lois investigative kind of trail, at a certain point, Todd and Brent came in, it's like, oh, we should bring back Bruno, like, as we're gonna have her go and like go to the beginning and use that as an opportunity to kind of showcase, because like to me, with that scene, it's not just this aspect of like Lois as a journalist is not just like, oh, I'm going to dig into clues and be super uh observative. Like I'm just gonna like see the clues and find things other people don't find. Like that's part of it for sure. She has that. But the other thing with Lois is like her power is her empathy, is her ability to cultivate sources. It's her ability to get people to tell her things that they wouldn't tell anyone else. And I think that scene with Bruno was important to like kind of show that aspect of where Lois can go in and say, "Hey, I'm gonna get this info out of this person that like I've had a very checkered, and complicated history with." Um, and that info is going to prove to be very important, and just looking at
Yeah.
that as like part of what Lois's superpower is, So, and yeah, and it was a nice opportunity to kind of like, again, bring that character back around, put a period on that storyline, have that story like, mean something going forward. Like we've seen how that affected, the way that Clark and Lois move through the world and like see the world. So I think uh and that scene was so much fun to shoot. Like Chad and Bitsy were just A+ game. It was fantastic.
Jay, thank you
That's yeah.
so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I speak for all three of us. We absolutely loved this episode, and really, really glad you got to put a bow on things here at the end.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to like, we might be running out of time, but I just want to also call out the Jordan in the diner scene at the end.
Absolutely.
It's a very important scene for me personally. I discovered while working on this show that I had anxiety and I started having panic attacks. In season 3, Todd and Brent were like really great about like helping me through that process and working through all of that. And that was a scene that was like, we actually didn't break that scene in the room. It was like kind of Act 6 was like, we broke 1 through 5 pretty tightly. And then Act 6 was like, okay, and then stuff's going to happen in the town and Jay, you'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like working on it, and I woke up one morning and that scene was there. Oh. It was just there. And I sat down and I wrote it while crying. It was like I was like this is like because I was like thinking, what is the hero that I would want? And Jordan in that moment became the hero that I would have wanted if I were Vicky May going through that moment, you know. And then as soon as I had that scene, I had Jonathan's mirrored scene as well, and just kind of showcasing how those two boys were going to be heroes, you know, moving forward. That Jordan's arc and everything he's experienced has given him the empathy to like be able to be that comfort to that person in that moment. And then Jonathan's moment kind of mirroring his dad and catching the car. So I just wanted to point that out and just you know, that was a very special scene.
It's something we talked about heavily in the episode. I hate we didn't get to even get to ask you, but I appreciate you bringing it up because we loved it. The juxtaposition.
Yeah, I'm so glad you got back to that. You know, it was good to touch on Jordan's anxiety, and that is still an ongoing thing. It's not just fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you so much.